Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ryan Cunningham. Hold on one second. So sorry about that. My name is Ryan Cunningham. I'm the Educational Data Management Systems Help Desk Manager. Today I am joined by Trevor Burns, who is our Student Data Coordinator.
Hello, everyone.
He's also Acting Capacity Staff Data Coordinator. So today we're just doing a targeted webinar for regional programs. It is that time of year for us to start thinking about putting in our new staff, re-enrolling our students, and editing any staff we may have to do. So we're not going to get too much into the weeds. Trevor, if you can navigate to the Men's Help Desk. As far as if you're brand new to staff data entry or student data entry, but I will show you where to go for those job aids. So if you scroll down, go to the staff data entry guides. And you'll see that very first link, the NEO Staff Users Manual. This is a job aid for somebody who's brand new to entering staff data into NEO Staff. If you'll back out of this, Trevor, and then I'll show you guys where there is a comparable job aid, synergy instructions, comparable job aid for those who are brand new to entering staff data. It's that second bullet point, Synergy DOE Training Guide under General Synergy Documentation. So if we go back to the PowerPoint, Trevor, we will cover what's new for staff data. So the first thing that's new is we've added the Educator ID to the certification application lookup. This is a module on the NEO public dashboard. So you do not need user credentials to access this. This is open to the public. Excuse me. So in the past, you would need to have the last name, last four digits of the social security number, as well as the date of birth to be able to look up the certification application status of an individual. You can now do that also with an Educator ID. If you go to the next slide, Trevor, you'll see we've also added the Educator ID to the NEO Staff Search. So for those of you who are tasked with entering new staff records or are familiar with this page, again, in the past, you would need to know the full 9-digit SSN to proceed through the process of creating an active staff assignment for a person. New for this year, you can use the Educator ID instead of the SSN. So the catalyst for this was basically contracted vendors, so like bus companies or third-party psychologists, where basically you needed to put them in to the NEO staff, and you needed their SSN or social security number to do that, and they were hesitant to give that, and rightfully so. So this is a way around it. So the question is, where do you get your Educator ID? You get it directly from the individual themselves. I lost my train of thought on that. So yeah, let's move past private schools. Doesn't count. So there are two new positions. I don't know if they pertain to regional programs or not. Probably not, but we're going to cover them. So JMG Skills Instructor is a contracted staff member of Jobs for Maine graduates. The reason we added this job position was districts were putting them in as classroom teachers. JMG Skills Instructors are not required to have professional licenses nor a teaching endorsement. So when they put them in as classroom teachers, they showed up in violation. It's the same reason why we created the next new position, which is visiting teacher. Basically, visiting teacher is on a teacher exchange program with a sister school. The teacher is authorized to act as an adjunct to existing staff and may not be used to avoid hiring a professional. Again, this position does not require a professional license or a teaching endorsement. When people were putting them in as classroom teachers, again, they were showing up in violation. So we'll move to, let's see what we got new for student data.
Attendance.
Yes, the attendance has changed. So if you want to go to that slide, Trevor, and we're going to talk about how attendance is changing. We're actually having it certified quarterly, and there is going to be a cumulative section. So I'll pass the mic to Trevor, because regional programs are responsible for reporting attendance for their students. So go away and take it.
Yep. So hey everyone, this is Trevor. Just a heads up, regional programs are responsible for attendance of their students. They're also responsible for reporting incidents of behavior and bullying. However, truancy is still part of the primary enrollment's responsibility. So you will not need to report truancy. However, as far as attendance goes, our attendance reporting for this year is changing quite a bit. And some of the reasons for that is not only to make it more accurate data, but Maine is required by law to report chronic absenteeism data, and it just makes sure that process is much more accurate. But a reason a student is marked as chronically absent, it means the student missed 10% or more of their days enrolled. And there are a few exemptions from this. If a student has less than 10 days enrolled, or if they're in the grades PK, so a pre-kindergartner, those students would not be considered chronically absent. However, I don't think any of you would deal with that scenario. And just to note, a student is considered present if they make 50% or more of their instructional day. That's present 1. If they miss 50% or more of their day, that's considered absent 1. If a student, for an example, if a student is scheduled to have a half day of school, they're only supposed to be there for half the day. If they show up for half of that half day, so they're there for a quarter of a full day, they're considered present because they made 50% of that instructional day. As far as the report, this is what the report is going to look like this year. It needs to be done quarterly and certified each quarter. And for this example, we're going to be looking at quarter 2. So as you can see, it's still aggregated counts of days enrolled and aggregated counts of days present for your students in their schools. As you can see, we have an elementary and high school. And down here, we have a year-to-date summary. So basically, up here, we are only reporting quarter 2 information. However, all the information we have reported thus far this year will appear down in this year-to-date summary. And it would just lets you know how your attendance is looking throughout the year. One thing to note, though, if you have gone and submitted quarter 2, or if quarter 2 has passed and you need to make changes to information in that quarter, you can go and do that and upload that to Synergy. If you look at this slide, is after quarter 2 has been certified. As you can see, the numbers we certified up at top, 13,260, all that's still there, even after quarter 2 is done. But say we went in and made a change, we needed to add 600 days present for a few students. That will reflect down here in this year-to-date summary. So you can see it now says 13,860 down here instead of 260. That's just letting you know that what was above is what you certified. However, this is what it was later corrected to, just to show all the changes and all of the information that was certified at the time. One thing that is going to change, though, is if you move over into the 4th quarter reporting, as you can see, all our quarters are here. The numbers reflected after we made changes are down here. So we still have that 13,860 here instead of that 13,260 that we certified. But if you go back in your quarter 2 report, you'll see the number you certified at the time. It's also very important to note that that certification button is now at the bottom of the report in quarter 4. That's because in quarter 4, you are not only certifying that your quarter 4 information is correct, you're also certifying that your year-to-date summary is also correct for your whole school year. So this is also not only a quarter 4 certification, but a year total certification. Some important columns in this report, we have number of excluded students. Those are the students who are excluded from chronic absenteeism. So if they had less than 10 days enrolled. You have the number of students who were marked chronically absent, as well as the percent of the student body. The most important column to note is this count incomplete records. You won't be able to certify this report if you have a count incomplete records in any row, but that just means you have a student who is missing attendance information. They don't have anything entered for them. So to look for these students, you would just click the student details link on the line in the incomplete record, and it will pull up a report that looks like this. This report will show you which of your students are chronically absent and which of them are exempt. But these days enrolled and days present fields will have little filters on them. If you click those fields twice, it will pull all the blank values up to the top. And those are the students who need we do have schools who make one-day enrollments where they have 0 days enrolled for the student or 1 day enrolled. That's fine. The system will take that. It just won't take it if it's blank. So you will need to have something entered in there. As far as attendance goes, that's what attendance reporting is going to look like for this year. So past that, that is attendance reporting. As far as student data goes, though, there is one more thing I wanted to point out to regional programs that some of you are probably already aware of doing this, but in order to create concurrent enrollments for your students, their primary enrollment will need to be created first at their sending district. Once that is done, you will be able to enroll your students, and vice versa. At the end of the year, your concurrent enrollment with the student will need to be ended before the primary enrollments can end their enrollments. So that usually requires a bit of communication back and forth, trying to exit students at the beginning and end of the year because you guys are relying on each other.
So before we move back to staff data and leave student data, I do want to remind you that behavior, incidences of prohibited behavior are to be entered by regional programs. If such an event occurs at your school, you are required to report that. If bullying happens, then you need to communicate that back to the primary because they are tasked with entering bullying. But again, behavior incidents that occur at the regional program need to be entered by the regional program. So moving back to staff data real quick, one thing I forgot to mention is that in previous years, the certification deadline for certifying your staff was the 31st of October. We have moved that up 2 weeks to the October 15th. We did that to align with the student EPS October 1st reporting, not only general ed, but students who receive special services as well. It only made sense for us to align those. So I think we've covered everything that we wanted to cover. So we're just going to hang out. If you have any questions, go ahead and submit them on the GoToWebinar to the right. There's a section that says questions with a text field. Just type that question in there, and we will answer questions as they come in. Okay, so we're not getting any questions. We're going to give it 2 more minutes. So if you have a question, please post it.
And during that time, real quick, while if anyone has any questions, I'll show you guys where this webinar will be located once here. These webinars will be recorded, and the questions that are asked during these times will also be put up with the answers they were given, unless we have any changes to make. But you just come back to the help desk page, and we'll have a whole tile for webinars and presentations. Right now it's pretty small, but this will dramatically increase within the next few months because we have quite a few webinars planned and just did quite a few today. So this is where you'll see all that come up, as well as the Q&As that come through during those.
Okay, so we're not getting any questions, comments, or concerns via the webinar, but if you think of anything, feel free to email or call the MEDMS Help Desk, 624-6896, or medms.helpdesk@maine.gov. Thank you very much for listening to us, and have a great day.
Thank you.